Joining us live, Oleksiy Goncharenko, who represents the people of Odesa in the Ukrainian parliament. Alex, as you're fondly known to us, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you very much for invitation and all covering that Fox is doing for all these months.
Of course. You're from Odesa, this city that was just struck by the Russians a single day after this deal to get grain out of the ports was reached. What does that say about whether Russia can be trusted to be negotiating in good faith here?
This morning started from the call from my wife. It was here early morning and night that there were huge explosions and all people were scared in the city. And that was awful. Definitely that is the answer from Putin to everybody, that he's going to continue this terror. He doesn't want any deal. He wants to be this food terrorist who is taking as hostages hundreds of millions of people throughout the whole planet. Some of them are starving, but others, they have problems with the food prices. And all of this because of this awful blockade of the Black Sea. And he didn't want any deal. It became possible only because Ukrainian army showed strength, destroyed part of Russian Black Sea fleet, liberated Snake Island, received Harpoon missiles to protect the coast. And only after this he decided that he should go to the deal, but he will do everything possible to disrupt it. And they started immediately. That means like Russia doesn't respect, never ever, any agreements. That's again evidence of this for the whole world.
We've been seeing that for months with the talk of the humanitarian corridors and everything else. This week, the U.S. downgraded intelligence so that they could share it publicly and get out ahead of what the Russians are planning that showed that Russia intends to annex additional territory. They're rolling out a playbook similar to what they did in 2014. Some of those things, areas under their control, they're establishing the ruble as currency. They're setting up banks, taking control of communications infrastructure, forcing residents to apply for citizenship. There was a bipartisan bill in the Senate this week that would officially label what Russia is doing as genocide. I know you were on the Hill. Do you see this getting some traction?
Yeah, that's true. I spoke with Senator Cardin, who is the first author, and this bill is on bipartisan support. There are both Republicans and Democrats who sponsored it and presented, and I hope very much that it soon be approved and that will be recognized as a genocide, because it is clearly genocide. Because for many people, they think that genocide is just Holocaust, like mass murder for everybody. No, genocide can be also like this, what Russia is doing. Burning Ukrainian books, destroying monuments, forceful deportation of children. More than 200,000 children deported from Ukraine and dispersed throughout the whole territory of Ukraine with the aim of Russia, definitely, with the aim to make from them Russians. And also this is sexual violence. This is also mass murders, unfortunately. So that's all we have in Ukraine, and that is clearly under the Convention of United Nations on Prevention and Punishment of Genocide, that it is genocide. And I hope it soon will be adopted on the Hill, both in Senate and in the House.
You've been all over the world trying to, speak to leaders. I mean, I met you in Madrid at the NATO summit. You were on the sidelines there. As all of the rest of the world's rallying around Ukraine, you've been working very hard to make sure that it doesn't drop out of the news and that you get the help that you need. It's going to be a much different obstacle trying to get to declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. So what are the reasons why that's such a hard task, and why does it make this genocide declaration even more important?
I think that, first of all, we should speak always truth. Russia is state-sponsored terrorism, and it is terrorist itself. And Putin is terrorist number one in the world today. And that it should be said clearly. We're very thankful that this bill is now a project of resolution is in the Senate. It was already adopted in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. We're waiting when it will be adopted on the floor, and I think that State Department could not wait for this, but already make this decision and to say that white is white and black is black. And Russia is sponsor of terrorism and is state terrorist. That is true. And together with acknowledging the fact that what's going on in Ukraine is a genocide, it means that we need to do everything we can, all countries, to stop it as soon as possible, because that is a question of lives, of women, of children, and that is also should be like, to prevent it, to stop it, so important for future, to show others that it is impossible to do such things in the 21st century, that the free world is strong enough to stop things like this. So that is vital to do it as soon as possible. And also, that is the only way back to normality, with no inflation rising, with no high prices for food, with no these refugee crises and other things. So we need to do this as soon as possible.
We've only got about 30 seconds left, but I've been speaking with you since the invasion began.
Yeah.
And one of the refrains I've heard from you and so many other members of parliament is we're getting support, but the kind of weaponry we're getting is not a difference maker. It's not going to end the war right now. Do you feel that there is no urgency among the nations that are supporting you to end the war versus just keep it where it is right now?
First of all, we are very thankful for any support we are receiving, and that is vital for us. But definitely there are some strange limitations. Like, for example, today, the problem is we have these HIMARSs, which is amazing American weaponry, which is making difference on the battlefield. But we're not provided with the long-range missiles to them, only short range. And I can't understand why 45 miles is not escalatory, and 70 miles is escalatory. I mean, and nobody can explain it. So I think that such limitations should be taken from the table. We should go and say, our aim is victory of Ukraine, because that's the only way back to normality. All others, victory of Russia is just bigger war. Stalemate is worsening the situation every day. So only victory of Russia, or only victory of Ukraine, that's what we need. And from this, we will make all decisions and everything will be clear.